Spirit Switchboard, airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3, New Orleans. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. If you are joining us, especially if you're joining us through Facebook, you can head over to StreamYard.com. You do have to sign up for a free account, but you can register so that when you comment or join in on a conversation, we know who you are. You don't have to if you feel uncomfortable with that. We will, if you check the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, we'll highlight your comments so that we can make sure that you know that we are saying hello to you guys. So my guest today, I'm super grateful to my guest today because I kind of sprung out of nowhere just a couple of days ago into his email inbox begging a wee bit if he could please come on the show today. So with us today is Denny Sargent. He is a Seattle writer, artist, former university instructor with an MA in ancient history and intercultural communications. The author has published works on alternative religions, Taoism, Animism, Shinto, Voudou, Tantra, published books including Global Ritualism, the Tao of Birth Days, Your Guardian Angel and You, Clean Sweep, the Book of the Horned One, Dancing with Spirits, Werewolf Magick, which we'll be talking about today, Werewolf Pack Magick, and the newest book that just came out in September, right? It was in September, The New Tantra for All. In September. Thank you for being here, Denny.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure, actually, that you contacted me. I'm very happy to be here.
And it's really, it's just a lot of fun because originally it was just, I was thinking about ginger snaps. I had a guest lined up who unfortunately couldn't be here today. And I'm thinking about the movie Ginger Snaps, which if y'all haven't watched it, you should. It's a great coming of age, step into your power werewolf kind of movie. I think it's like from the early 2000s too.
That's right. And there's three of them.
Yes. Yeah. There's three of them. But it quickly went from this, let's talk about movies to, oh, here we go. I found you. Let's talk about werewolves.
That's right. You found the werewolf guy.
Yeah.
I love this stuff.
It's awesome. So I just got to say hello to some of the people that are joining us. Hi, Tom. Howie is here. Nocturnal Frequency Radio. Thank you for joining us today. This is awesome. I want to start at the very beginning. I was thinking you and I have had a conversation leading up to this, and I had shared with you about my daughter when she was grade 4. So I'm not sure how old she would have been. Maybe 9, grade 4-ish, I think, somewhere in there. But we had moved from Southern Ontario to Northern Ontario, and she was having trouble. She had come home from school and she said, "Mom, you didn't tell me you were moving me to a Catholic school." And I went, "No, honey, you're not in a Catholic school. You're in a public system. It's not a Catholic school." But we had moved just before Christmas. And so they were talking about traditions and all that kind of stuff. But my daughter, I had let her have this full moon club when we were living in Southern Ontario. And so on these full moons, we would do like a little crafty thing, but it wasn't necessarily connected to Wicca or a pagan belief system, but it's kind of falls in line with it, even though we were putting our intentions on the little wands she was making and the dream pillows that she was making, and understanding everything has intention that you do. So when they were asking people at her new school, what their religions were and what their what their traditions were leading up to Christmas, she's like, Mom, everybody looked at me like I had 8 heads. I'm never going to be invited to parties. I'm just
totally are going to get him. She's going to get invited to parties.
I mean, she's 26 now, and she's a great kid, but that eclectic points of view, and that has made her so open and accepting, right? So I wanted to know what your childhood was like.
Oh, very interesting. Well, I've written Werewolf Magick and Werewolf Pack Magick, which sounds really flaky, and you were very kind enough to go through it and understand that it's not flaky, that I put a lot of energy and time research into it, and that there's it goes all the way back to animism, and it goes all the way back to people shapeshifting and shamanism and all this other sort of stuff. And as a kid, as a young child, I saw things and experienced things that as a child, when you're a child, you don't know, you don't stop and say, oh, that's not real. When you're a little kid, I would toddle around, and I would, one day I was crawling under I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. And I crawled into the bushes, and there was a Jack in the Pulpit, which I'd never seen before. And to me, sorry, you're going to hear my dog. That's just how, it's perfect for a werewolf conversation.
Yeah, it's all good.
He's out there barking. Anyway, if he gets obnoxious, I'll lock him up. But and I remember seeing this flower, and it was glowing, like glowing white light. Now, at the time, I was just like, oh, look, it's a flower glowing. And I had a lot of strange experiences. I had a tree that I used to talk to. I'd climb up in this big magnolia. I wasn't supposed to because I was really young. And I would sit in this tree, and this tree and I were best friends, and we would talk to each other. And once when I had a very strange experience. My brother and I both saw this. We climbed up the stairs to our play area. We had a special room that was a play area. And we heard something in the play area. And this is really obnoxious, my dog, isn't it?
It's all good. It's all good.
It happens every time I talk about werewolf magic. My dog goes crazy. Anyway,
it's the pack.
It's the pack. Oh, hey!
It's the pack.
Get in here. Oh my God.
It's the lingo.
Here, come here. Get up here.
The howls, growls, and lingo.
Yeah. Here's my dog.
Oh, he's beautiful.
He is, but he's a moron, aren't you, honey? All right. Anyway, so we heard this noise in the playroom, and I looked through the keyhole. I was 6. He was 4. I looked through the keyhole, and I saw a little green man. And I know this. I've never said this on live anything anywhere. I've never, in fact, told this story to anyone.
Oh, I think Howie, who's watching, will be interested. His ears will be peaked now.
Okay, so all right, and everybody's gonna say, "Oh, you were a little kid, you made it up." So I looked into the keyhole, and I saw this little green man, very small, playing with our sand buckets, like green sand buckets, and the things were moving, and that's what we were hearing. And my brother said, "Let me see," and I said, and he looked through it. And I said, "Tell me what you see," because I thought I was like, I don't know if I'm seeing. And he described the exact same thing. And there was more to it, but we went 1, 2, 3, and we opened the door and we ran in. And this little green man turns around and looks at us. He had a little green hat. He was all green. He looked at us and went, ah, and jumped in the plastic bucket and disappeared. Okay, so I'm old now, and my brother's old too. And we got together, a few years ago, and we were talking. I said, hey, do you remember the little green man? And he turned white. And he said, oh my God, was that real? I said, I don't know. You tell me. And I said, tell me what you saw. And he told me. And I said, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
And he kind of went, oh, I had forgotten that. I had suppressed that. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the world. I'm in the weird world. So I do not suppress these things. So
I contacted my siblings recently as well too, and said, hey, do you remember these experiences as a child. Laura Lee is just saying not here on UPRN. We totally believe exactly what you're talking about, Denny. Incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, I know you're hanging out with some good company today.
Apparently, no, I'm in the right. No, I love my occult world, I have to say. So I'm involved in lots of things. Obviously, I wrote a book on Tantra, and Werewolf Magick is my animistic feral. I hung out with shamans, and I saw them do things that I didn't think were possible, like real shamans, not certificate from a school shaman.
Weekenders.
Yeah, some were from Siberia. They were an Olchi tribe. They call themselves the Nani Doro. They're from rural Siberia. And then the other people I hung out with were in Guatemala. And I was hanging out. I was going through the jungles of Guatemala. I've traveled to about 25 countries. I lived in Japan for 4 years. I'm one of those weirdos. Anyway, so I'm in Guatemala this is the Mayan area, and our guide is taking us to these places, and we're sitting around talking. And I looked at him, like really deeply looked at him, and I said, "You're a shaman, aren't you?" And he went, "Oh," and then he looked at me. He goes, "You are too." And I said, "Not exactly, but," and then he said, I love this line. I'll never forget it. He said, "There's a great brotherhood of people like us around the world. And when we see each other, we recognize each other." And I'm getting goosebumps right now at that like the
and moment. That's a compliment.
Yes. And then he looks at me, he goes, "All right, we're going to change the whole itinerary. Do you want to go meet a bunch of other shamans?" I said, "Yeah." And so we ended up going to a ritual with about 15 shamans, all dressed in white. They were focused on a Mayan deity, and it was so intense. Just to cut to the chase, they did this huge blessing ritual with copal burning and flags hanging and all this other stuff. They were speaking Mayan. They weren't speaking Spanish. And as they started going, all of a sudden there was a tornado in this room, and I have never, like, blowing everything, paper and everything around in circles. And then they came over and blessed us, and whoosh, it stopped. And like I was like, okay, this is what I like. I've had several experiences like that with in India. I ran into, because as a tantric, I was able to go into temples and say, "Look, I'm not a tourist. I'm an initiated tantric in the Nat Sampradaya, the Nat lineage." And I'd show them a picture of my guru, and I had my beads and everything. And they go, "Oh, you're welcome. Come in. You're a pilgrim, not a tourist." I said, "Okay." And I saw things there. I was driven to one place, and this guy, they drove me to this temple. This guy said, "I'm taking you to this temple. Don't tell the tourist people I took you here. I'm not supposed to take you here because it's really in the boonies, and it was 100 different temples." And he pulls up, and there's a guy dressed in saffron robes standing there, and he looks at me in the Jeep, and he goes, "I've been waiting for you. Come with me." And I looked at the driver, and I said, "Is this okay?" And he goes, "You need to go." And he took me down into a cave. He took me down into a cave and sat me down, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what now? What?" And he has pictures of Hanuman, the monkey guy.
Yep.
And he starts, and he just says, "Okay, I've been called. I've been waiting for you. I've been called to do this for you." And he did this whole puja, this whole ritual, blessed me, marked my forehead, did the whole thing, and taught me a mantra, and said, "Okay, you are now an initiate of the god Hanuman." And I said, "What?" And then I said, "Okay, I love monkeys. I love animals. I've had lots of interesting spiritual experiences with animals in my life. Okay, this is what's supposed to happen." And I said, "Do I pay you? Do you want money?" He said, "I don't want any money." And I was like, "No, this is India." I was like, "You don't want any money? Okay." And so I came out and he took me all over to look at all the other temples. There was a Ganesh temple and everything. Then I got back to my Jeep, and the guy goes, "Okay, are you done?" I said, "I guess." He goes, "What happened?" I told him. He goes, Yeah, you were supposed to come here. And that
It's
that was,
wild, eh?
oh, that's happened to me everywhere. In Japan, I went to shrines.
Sorry to interrupt you, Denny. I just want to get to
Again,
some of these comments for you so that you can see what's happening here. Howie's saying we're not old, we're experienced.
well, I'm not dead, so that's good. Last year I had 2 heart operations, and I feel great now. You're right. He's right. He's
I'm
right.
glad that you're still here. Kendall. Hello, Kendall. I love you and miss you too. Yeah.
Aw, you got nice people who love you. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
There is Jody is saying hello to everybody from South Wales, UK.
Hi, Jody.
Thank you for being here. When you were sharing that story, it's interesting. I'm going to share a quick story as well too. My youngest son is 18 now, and when he was three, he was just turning 3. He was in bed with me. It was just before he was, supposed to be falling asleep, and he said, "Mom, there's a lady there." And I said, "You see a lady at the end of the bed? I'm not seeing the lady. She's all yours." And I have seen people that were crossed over and spirits since the time I was little as well too. So, I was prepared for my children to have experiences. And I said, "Can the lady tell you her name?" And he said, "Kuan Yin." And I didn't know at the time who Kuan Yin was. And I said, "What does she need you to do?" And he's like, he just shrugs his shoulders. And I said, "Is she saying anything to you?" And he's like, "Om Mani Padme Hum." And I went, "Okay, babe, what do we do with that?" And he says, "We just say it." Like I was annoying him and asking him what we were supposed to do with it. And I said, "Okay. And is she still here?" He's like, "No, she said what she needed to say and she left." I went, "Okay, dude." So, every
That's
night
very intense.
it gets bigger. So I would scratch his back every night and we would say this mantra and he would just fall asleep. And understanding later when I did the research about family harmony, love, unity, peace, and understanding that's what it was about. But I hadn't been doing this work publicly. And it was a year later I started doing this work publicly. And I had driven 8 hours to go to like a weekend psychic fair. Like if I was going to do this publicly, I wanted to know what I was getting myself into. And there was a fellow that was selling, Denny, can you Vulcan mind meld too and help me find the word in my in my brain? Singing bowls. He had singing bowls.
Yeah,
And so he had this booth with all kinds of different things. And he said, I was walking, I was across the hotel room, like that big, conference rooms that they have. And he pointed at me and he waved for me to come over. And he said, "You have a small blonde boy." And my hair was like colored bright red at that time. Right. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "That boy sees Kuan Yin." And I said, "Yes, he does." And he gave me a ring and it had Sanskrit, the mantra all around. Yeah. And he passed it to me and he said, you are meant to be here and you were meant to take this to him. And he's 18 and still has it. So I agree. Like you just magically or serendipitously show up where you're supposed to and we're recognized, by that vibration.
Oh yeah, no, I've had a few of these happen. When I was in Japan, I got very deeply involved in Shinto, which is the indigenous animistic religion of Japan. And I'd be drawn into temples, and Kuan Yin is she's called Kanon in Japan.
Okay.
But I remember going into a place and just starting to chant, Guan Yin Shi Pu Sa, which is a way, and then I found out later that's a way to say honor to Kuan Yin. So she's actually on my altar. Kuan Yin is she's a beneficent, lovely deity. But many of the Shinto gods and goddesses, I'd go into shrines and I would have experiences directly with them. Like Amaterasu Omikami, who's the sun goddess, who's the primary deity in Shinto practice. And I would go into these shrines, and I got to know them. In fact, I was teaching at a university there, but I also picked up jobs as an author and a journalist, because I learned all about the festivals and what they were doing. And they started publishing my work for Americans who came to Japan, because I was into the gods and goddesses and the legends. And the funny thing is, most Japanese don't know about their own religion. They go to shrines, like people going to church, they pray, they throw some money, they ask the spirit of the shrine for something, and then they go. And I'd walk into the Shinto priests and I'd say, sumimasen, da 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 da, and I would ask them in Japanese, who's the kami-sama of the shrine? And they would go, oh, you care. And I watched, so I got to know these, and I got to feel it. I'd go into different things. Now, my son was born in Japan, and this is before his autism kicked in. I'd carry him around on his little carry thing. We went everywhere together, and he loved the shrines. So he was attracted to the energy of the shrines. And we'd go up, and very quickly he learned, you'd go up to the shrine, you clap, you ring the bell, you clap again, and then you pray. And he would start doing it automatically, like he was, a year old.
Right.
And one day we're walking down a narrow street, a cobblestone street, and he turned to the wall and he goes and bows down. And I go, honey, it's a wall. And I'm like, huh. So I go around the corner, and behind the wall was a shrine.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I love it. Jody is just sharing a story. See if we can bring it up. Jody is just sharing, my daughter also one night said there was a lady on the ceiling the next morning while choosing which little box of cereal she wanted. She pointed at the back of the Shreddies cereal box at the old woman knitting the Shreddies like on the old advert. She said that's the woman that was on the ceiling. Yeah, our little people are very connected. And I think because they're higher self remembers, they don't have all of that conditioning and experiences that have dulled it. We get that age 6, it starts to kick in where they feel like they have to conform in order to fit in, right? And that conditioning.
I start off Werewolf Magick with that very conversation, and in Werewolf Pack Magick, I have a lot of conversations within the book about our conditioning blocks everything, because we're utterly disconnected from Gaia, from nature, and when you're a child, you see things. I had a pet bee. I found a bee that was almost drowned. I was a little toddler, and I ran over and saw the bee, and it was a bumblebee. I wasn't afraid of it. And I fished it out of the water, and it looked like it was going to go. And I brought it for a week. I brought it flowers to feed, and then after a while, after maybe 3 or 4 days, I went out there, and it was good enough. It crawled on my hand, and then eventually flew away. Now, if my mom had seen that bee on me, she would have freaked out. But I and the bee were fine. Yeah. Later, like when I was like 14, I went on a hike in the Adirondack Mountains. And I was sitting there, and everybody was doing something. And all of a sudden, I hear this woman going, ah, and she comes running into the camp. And this huge black bear comes out, like huge. And it comes walking up. And I'm sitting there, and I am so in love with the fact this bear was coming up to me. I was not afraid at all. In fact, it didn't even occur to me. It came right up and sniffed my chest. And then I heard the people behind me screaming, Denny, get out of there. And I looked at the bear, and the bear looked at me, and it just walked away. So, I mean, I still like a child. I go to the woods, and I like the animal. I don't know. I'm weird. I'm a weird.
No, I don't think that you're weird at all. And Victoria is just saying hello to both of us. Hi, Carolyn and Denny. I think I say that to people too, that every day I wake up with a sense of wonder, like a little kid at Christmas. Like, I wonder what's going to happen today. I wonder who I'm going to meet or experiences we're going to have. And having a sense of wonder is so important. And talking about conditioning and letting go of conditioning, I had a number of sessions this week where old patterns were coming to the surface for these clients. And I went, yeah, just when you think that you've dug deep, you get asked by spirit to dig even deeper. Just when you think that you've been working on your healing, you know, you have to dig deeper. So
if we don't, so my Werewolf Magic books sound ridiculous and people think they're nuts. But I actually am quite serious in my research. And what I was after there was to try to get people to decondition themselves. And the fastest way, the way that has worked for me during a real crisis time in my life, was to let my animal self out and shut down my constantly programmed, Western brain. And when I'm able to get into that trance state of pushing all that junk in my head away and just exist in nature, I can see things and I can perceive things and I can be open like a child again. And that's the key, I think.
I agree. Having a sense of wonder.
Having a sense of wonder and being able to perceive the powers and the entities in nature that we are blind to seeing now because we don't believe they exist in our culture.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. One of the, I know that I was just so excited that you were going to come on. And I know that I had said to you, I had popped off that email and I was just going to run with that for sure. You were going to say yes. And I had written it 3 pages. I was just so excited, and then had purchased the books through Kindle and was going through this. Oh my gosh.
We had a lovely talk.
Yeah. I'm sure it's the first of many. So one of the things that I had these are the words that I wrote down. When I was thinking about Werewolf Magick and the Pack Magick as well too. Devotion to family, trusting instincts, autonomy, freedom, accepting our primal nature, and trusting our natural connection to animals in the land. Those were all of the words that came up for me when I was going through that. So do you want to talk about some of that?
Sure. So I very, very quickly, I went through a very, very hard time in my life. I lost everything, and I meditate every night. And I lost my job. I lost I had a divorce. Everything was bad. And during my meditations, a wolf kept showing up, which is unusual, and it's not something I was ever involved in. And the wolf, and I finally looked at the wolf after ignoring it for a while and said, "What are you? Who are you?" And it said, "I'm a wolf. I'm the wolf spirit, and you've been calling me. You're in deep trouble, and I'm going to help you." And I was like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And it said, "You need to get out in the woods. You need to rip off your clothes, and you need to be part. You need to re-enter nature. You're so you and so many people are just so wrapped up in all the garbage that has been programmed into you. You are going to have to break out of the shell, and you no longer have instinct. You need to find your instinct. You need to find your intuition, and you need to find your insight. And the only way you're going to do that is by shutting down your all the crap that's in your head. Yeah, you have a master's degree. Yeah, you've been a teacher. You need to drop all that stuff, and you need to re-enter the magical world of nature, And so I did that. I ran out there and I did it, and I sat down and I said I had a very deep experience, and howling and growling and the whole thing. And then I started getting more teachings from this wolf or whatever it was. And it said, "No, you need to go up into the wild." No, I live in Seattle. I'm an hour and a half away from deep, deep woods where there's bears and panthers and the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I went up there, and I was at the end of my rope, and I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm just going to go up here and camp, and I'm going to rip off my clothes, and I'm just going to go into the woods. And if I die, I die, and if I break through, I break through." And I had a huge, massive breakthrough. I completely shut down my brain and simply existed as an animal, and all of a sudden the trees lit up. I could see at night. I actually went tracking into the forest, and I walked right up to raccoons, and I walked right up to a deer scared the hell out of them. It was kind of funny. And I all of a sudden I was not thinking anything. Like I'd shut down my brain. I was just existing. And it was such a relief to not be worrying about the bills and be worrying about this and to be thinking about this and cognating this and just no thinking at all. And the moon and the trees. And all of a sudden I felt nature, I felt Gaia embrace me and say, okay. I mean, not say anything, but I felt like, now you're one of my kids. Now you're one of my kin. Now you can enter this world. Like, because humans have blocked themselves off from nature. And
block themselves off completely, like not even tapped into their own body and how their intuition's giving them messages and connecting. Exactly.
It's a source. I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years. I didn't plan to write a book about it, but anyway, that's another story. But, but I've been doing this, and I am if you saw a picture, I wish I had a picture to show you of me 5 years ago. I looked like I was at death's door. I'm feeling great, actually. I'm doing great. I look better and feel better, mostly because once a month on the full moon, I shut down all my cognition and I howl and I growl and I go into an animal state and I put my hands in the earth and I see Gaia. She comes up as eyes and I feel my toes and my claws in the earth and the energy, like Gaia gives me the energy, renewal energy. And I reach to the trees and it gives me the energy. And I reach down, it gives me the energy. Because I'm open. I'm now open. It's not anything. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's just we've created these shells, and our culture and our indoctrination has created these shells that we're stuck in our little worlds. And now everybody's got pods in their ears, and I mean, everybody's shrinking into their own little eggshells, you know. And so, but we are animals. And the first thing when I teach this, when I do workshops, the first thing I make everybody do is say, I am an animal. And they have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah.
They have a lot of trouble. I said, no, we are literally in the phylum, in the biological phylum of animals. We are considered underneath the great apes. We are one of the great apes, Homo sapiens. We are animals, and our whole life we've been told we're not animals, that animals are bad and we are good and we can do anything we want.
And we're above.
And they have no feelings and we can kill them and we can slaughter them and they're just things. We matter. We have souls. They don't have souls. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yes, they do. Doris, I'm just going to read this for you. Doris is just saying it's great hearing Denny Sargent talking. I believe in animals and what they know.
Oh, thank you, Doris. You're awesome. I mean, you know, if we don't reconnect with our fellow animals and with Gaia, we're doomed. I mean, this isn't even, I'm not even joking. I mean, I'm not being.
I agree. And I always call it the meat suit. Like you have to, and when I'm teaching about connecting with your intuition, I always say it's in non-thinking moments you're going to hear that intuitive voice, and it may sound like yours, but when you lean in, you know that vibration and that voice is coming from outside of you, even though it sounds like yours inside your head. Right. So it's having those experiences in different ways: eyes open, eyes closed, inside ear, outside ear. You have to lean in and feel, and be willing to feel.
Yes.
That's willing to feel.
True. That's absolutely true. That's why I wrote a book called Your Holy Guardian Angel and You, because I did an entire working on connecting with that inner self. And as a tantric, it's the same. It's called the Atman, or the Guru. Guru actually means light removed, darkness removed from light. A guru can be a teacher, but the guru is the spark of God inside you, right? It's the light inside you. So meditation. Every time I meditate, every time I do werewolf magic, whatever, I'm both basically opening myself up to the divine in me, you know. However,
so that leads me to another question about breath work. Is it about breath work? Like how important is breath work? And does so when you're in that altered state.
Mm-hmm.
Is if I'm incorrectly phrasing it, then please correct me.
No, that's fine.
When you're in that altered state, does your breath change? Does your breath change when you're doing just a regular meditation to when you're doing a full moon connecting to that wolf side of
Good
you?
question. No one's asked me that question. That's a great question.
I ask lots of questions that other
I
people don't
love
think
that.
about. Good.
You and I are going to be friends.
Yes, I know we are.
When I'm doing every night I do my tantric meditation, I do pranayama, which is intentional. I'll breathe in, hold for 7 seconds, breathe out for 7 seconds, hold for 7 seconds. I do breathing exercises to relax, open myself, open my mind, and I do visualization. When I'm doing the werewolf magic stuff, every full moon, I'm not intellectualizing at all. You read my books. I have a technique. I hung out with shamans who gave me a bunch of ideas, and then the wolf spirit gave me some. I rock. I spend like about an hour rocking and growling. Now my chest is really opened up from the growling, right? And then I move to other things like growling, up growling, down growling, howling. Oh, right. And then I reach. I have a whole technique in my books on how to reach that state, that state of consciousness where you're sort of in a trance, or however you want to put it. And then my breathing changes radically, but it's not conscious. It's just because once I flip into animal state and my brain, my upper cortex shuts down, all my thinking stuff, my cognitive stuff, I'm activating what Carl Sagan called the dragon mind, the lower cortex. And there's
I always called it the mouth of God. I thought that's what that was called too.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
But in terms of biology, we contain all the animal genes. We contain all the animal stuff. Yes, I absolutely did growl as a youngster. I still growl. In fact, I had a moment. I was teaching university, and this guy came up to me. I was doing my werewolf magic stuff, but the student came up to me with a really bad homework assignment. Like I teach graduate level. I taught graduate level stuff. And it was supposed to be an essay, 10 pages or something really, and it was garbage. And I'm looking at it, right? And I'm going, and he goes, Mr. Sargent, are you growling? And I'm like this, I'm like, no, no, I'm not growling. I just have a cold, so I'm so
thanks, Howie, for asking the question.
Yeah. So Howie, my friends all basically call me like the werewolf guy or my feral friend, because when I'm driving and I get aggravated, which we all do, I don't swear as much anymore, but I do growl. When somebody cuts me off, I'm like, Rah!
Right. But Howie's just following up with that, saying same, that he did as well too. Good to know I was not alone. I even stuck my tongue like a cat over people. Sucked my tongue like a cat. Over people who suck their thumbs. No lie. Isn't that fascinating, right?
Well, it makes perfect sense. Our whole culture, unfortunately, and I've hung out in tribal cultures in Thailand, in Cambodia, in Guatemala, in lots and lots of places. And tribal cultures accept that we are animals, and we behave like animals, and we have these instinctual things we do, like what he just said. And it's our culture that has sealed us off, like put us in a brick walled area where we are not animals and we can't act like animals. And even as a kid, if you act like an animal, you get yelled at. You're eating like a pig, that we have all these things. Stop acting like an animal. It's a zoo in here. Like we have all these negative animal things that we get hammered with as kids. And instead we're supposed to go to school and sit still for 8 hours at the age of 5, which no tribal culture would do that. They would think it was really, terrible thing to do to a child.
Right.
So we've been boxed into these things. So much of my werewolf magic stuff is to tear open the box and be an authentic being, you know.
I always say feral children are my favorite. I had 4 of them. 4 feral children. I'm like, let's go. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the way it is. And I've been in
Feral.
tribal cultures where the kids just run amok and you think, oh no, are they safe? And the people there are like, they gently show them what's important, what's not, what's dangerous, what's not. But same in Japan. Japan's a Shinto country that even in Tokyo, the kids were allowed to just play and be who they were. And that's how my son at the age of 2 started picking up Japanese, because the kids would just come up and start yattering in Japanese and English, and they started picking up. It's like our job is not to like put them in rigid boxes. Our job is to let them, like trees, grow to who they're going to be. And like your child saying, oh, I see Kuan Yin. When I was a small child, I used to leave my body and fly around the neighborhood.
Oh, I have a kiddo that did that too.
And my mom, after, and I mean, it was really clear. It was absolutely astral traveling, because it wasn't like dreams. I saw the neighbors, I saw the car, and I was just like, this is so cool. Until my parents sat me down and said, no, honey, that's not real. That's a dream. It's not real. And then it stopped. When it stopped, I couldn't.
So my coming out of the Witchy Boo closet was with an online parenting radio show for parenting kids that were intuitive. So we didn't shut them down. Like that was what drove me, was to make sure that the kids had space and parents could be educated to support them and not shut them down. It was so important to me. I just wanted, there's some comments here I'd like to get to.
I can see, from Doris.
Yeah, so Doris is saying breath work is crucial. Having just lost my beagle, whom was shown my friend and my aunt their cancers. Oh, sorry. We're just going to finish, and then I'm going to move you over. Okay, Laura Lee, sorry.
She had a very good comment about breath work, and
my experience was when I stopped breathing, he somehow got me breathing again. He passed, my chest was so heavy, and I felt him and heard him. We're still connected. Thank you very much for sharing that, Doris.
In Tantra, it's considered that every breath is part of your life, and that they actually say you have X number of breaths in a lifetime, and that's why we need to slow down. And we need to like honor every single breath, because breath, prana, they call it pranayama. Prana is energy, and that breath and energy are the same thing, and that breathing deeply is breathing shallowly, like most Westerners do, because they're stressed, is toxic, and you basically plug up the lower part of your
gut.
Your gut.
Yeah.
And people don't breathe like, they don't breathe deeply. They breathe like that, and the lower part of your lungs is never cleaned out. Breath in most esoteric cultures, breath is crucial. Breath is life, they say.
Yeah.
And
I tell people, once you practice mindful breathing, you can roll it. You can pull it up and roll it. Open up your third eye, your crown, roll it down your spine into the earth and back up. So you're intuitively connected to all and grounded at the same time. We don't have to be all airy-fairy.
Right. And it circulates energy through your body.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff
exactly. So Laura Lee is just, she has a question for you too. She's a question, Denny. I noticed how your gorgeous pup settled at the start after you howled at him, after you growled back. Do you connect on a special level with him as per the werewolf part?
Absolutely. So I have a werewolf pack. I have a group of people who tried this sort of stuff that I've got in my books, and they got really into it and had deep experiences, and were able to shapeshift down into like a non-verbal trance state. And for the first, I'd say 5 months, my dog would sit. I have an old trampoline in my backyard. During the full moons, my dog would sit on the trampoline and watch us. Watch us as we were like growling and rocking and going into the trance state. And then when we got to after about an hour of this, we'd reached this point where we had entered this primal non-thinking state. And then we'd all come together and we'd go, oh, all of us together. We made this incredible harmony, which kind of opened up and changed everything. And my dog would just sit there and watch there. And after about, I don't know how many months, 3, 4, 5 months, one night we were all in our circle and we were starting our thing, and he got up, walked over, and sat down in the circle. And from then on, he was a member of the pack.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
But
he knows this. He knows all this routine, and he actually is our guide dog, because he's in that state anyway, Anyway.
Victoria, I just wanted to let you know that I've read this message about you being at the Crown Harrison last Friday. I had an event at the Crown Harrison, asking your divine team to protect you and keep you safe. I feel, your dreams have been crazy. Well, and the dreams could be kind of all sorts of energetic things that are going on at the moment. Haven't had your connection. I'm very sorry about your uncle. And I'm glad that we have a date for December. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you then too. I just wanted you to know that I did see that comment. Thank you for coming to the event. And then I do look forward to connecting with you later. Laura Lee's just saying thank you very much for responding to that.
Oh, wonderful. No, I'm having a great time. We could do this forever.
Yeah. So, okay. there were so many comments and questions that I had on this paper. So one of the things that I noticed with the way that the book is laid out, the first book, so Wolf Magick, we'll start with Wolf Magick.
Werewolf Magick.
It's Werewolf Magick. It's very personal. Yes, which is correct in my thinking too.
Thank you.
It's very personal. Like you really do, you practice what you preach, you practice what you are putting, and it's a journey. It really is a journey. And
it is.
If you follow, it leads you up where you can push it past your comfort zone edge and just wait a little bit before you go further. Like it leads you to that state should you choose to want to go there.
Yes. And I have to say, when I first started doing this, I thought it was just me and my own insanity, and started writing all this stuff down, pages and pages and pages of like what the wolf spirit's telling me, what I'm experiencing, what worked, what didn't work. And I didn't plan, I think I told you, but I didn't plan to write a book at all. I went to PantheaCon, which is the biggest, it's now gone, but it was the biggest pagan and occult gathering in the United States in California. And I went down there to sell other books that I wanted to write. And my friends told me, no, you've got to push, you've got to write Werewolf Magick. I said, nobody's going to want this. It's crazy. Nobody's going to want this. And I sat down with 2 acquisition editors from 2 of the major publishers. And both of them did the same thing. They went, no. Oh, we want Werewolf Magick. And I was like, are you out of your mind? Like, why would you want this? They go, no, it's great. It's perfect, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
and why were you talking yourself out of work?
Because I'm a fool. I'm not very good at promoting myself, obviously. I mean, I've always been this way. So, which is why I'm not, rich and all those other things. But
rich is all depending on your perspective as well too, right? Like it is.
I just didn't think. But anyway, it pushed me to do the book,
right?
And I was shocked actually when it was published. I've had hundreds of people. I've been on podcasts. I don't know how many podcasts I've been on. And every time I did the same thing, I'd be like, really? You want me on your podcast? And then I got offered to go do a festival in Ohio with 1,500 people. And I didn't know whether this Werewolf Magick stuff would work for anyone but me. I mean, I really didn't. I thought, is this going to work with other people? And I got 200 people, many of whom were very, kind of wondering whether this was real. And
they had to be open-minded skeptics to at least be there, right?
Yeah, that's correct. They were like, oh, this sounds like fun. Hello, we'll try it. Yeah. And I put 200 people under. They all went into trance state. And my favorite thing to say is that a bunch of them, they're younger than me, were running around the circle on all fours. And I didn't know that was humanly possible. And we're
Like
howling
Mowgli from Jungle Book. Whoa.
and ripping off their clothes and howling, and there was a full moon. And after a while, I was like, I have to bring this back down. Like, I have to pull them out, you know? And I gathered them all, like, got them all to come in. And I started to do when we're doing this stuff, we're nonverbal. The minute you use your language, you use your upper cortex, and it stops
Right.
the whole thing. So I'm like, and I'm trying to show them, like, okay, let's start rocking and bringing it back down again. And they were like, no. And they ran off. And I was like, oh my God. I have 200 people here. If they run amok in this campground, I'm going to be in so much trouble.
How badly their spirit needed to let loose.
Yeah, that's what they said afterwards. So I finally got them down, and about 50 of them left, and like 150 of them stood there and wouldn't leave. And they said, we want more. We want more. I said, no, we're done for tonight. And the woman who ran the entire conference, the entire, event, was there. I didn't realize had gone through it. And she was like, she said, no, this is real. Like this is real. This is a real thing. So you know what? We're going to do it again tomorrow night at this place. And I was like, and then she looked at me, she said, is that okay with you? Like,
yes.
Okay.
That's being in the moment and rolling with it.
You mean I get to be a wolf again? Yes. Oh, I'll do that,
Exactly. Laura Lee is just sharing, my eldest son, when he was 14, his friend's mom did a past life regression with a group of them. And he told me the most incredible experience he lived in the past as a black wolf.
Okay, that is fantastic. And let me tell you something. On Facebook, I have gotten hundreds of people writing me saying, I know exactly what I am a wolf. Was born a wolf. In the past life, I was a wolf. I'm into werewolves. I've watched all the werewolf movies. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with werewolf movies. I collect werewolves. And your book, all of a sudden, like, oh, there's actually something to this. Yeah. And my response was, okay, let's start with, I like to go back to science a lot. We are 98% genetically the same as chimpanzees. We are 86% genetically the same as wolves. It's in our blood.
That's fascinating.
It's in our body. What we're really doing is shutting down this upper cortex part, which only developed over the last 200,000 years, and we're shutting this down so that the rest of our body knows what to do.
Yeah.
And so once we start howling and growling, and once we go into this mode and we've shut down all the stuff that says no, you're a human, you can't do that, then we're in a different place. And we're in a place where we're connected with the earth,
yes.
And you feel it. I swear, when you get into that state where you have shut down your upper brain, all of a sudden, like, you see the energy going up the trees, you see the water going up the roots. You can put your hands in the earth and you can feel the heartbeat of the earth, and you can go. I'm no longer scared about going into the woods. We have primal woods, like I said, an hour from here.
Right.
I'm not afraid of the pumas. I'm not afraid of the bears. I'm not afraid of these things, because I'm going in as like one of them. I'm with you guys. I'm not with these people that are trying to shoot you. And I'm not one of them. I'm one of you. Is what I kind of say to myself.
Yeah. Last week I had David Barreto on talking about karma and reincarnation within the animal kingdom. And he had made that comment about people reincarnating as animals. And I've always thought I was a pretty open-minded person. I have, had all of these experiences, a little bit on the woo-woo side, just a wee bit. And I'm like, I had never even thought about because I hadn't even thought about it. And that was one of the things that I wrote down to talk to you about today, was like, ancestral lines having that reincarnation as animals in that, like tapping into that animal ancestral line.
I have found at least a dozen lineages in other countries, like Turkey, for example, that trace their original beginning with wolves. In Turkey, there's a myth that the Turkish people are descended from a blue wolf. I mean, other places, if you go into the Norse countries, I've traveled in Sweden, I traveled in Finland, and I traveled in Iceland and Denmark. There's a lot of conversation about that the wolves, like they come from, if you think about Odin and a lot of the stuff in Norse mythology, that the wolves were the beginning of the lineages. So,
right.
I mean, we are animals. We came from animals. I mean, it's within us. I mean, whether it's like, the idea that it really, a wolf gave birth to the first humans is maybe a little odd, but it's in our blood and we know it. We know it when we go into a trance state, when we have dreams, when we sit in deep meditation. If we look for that side of us, it's there. These genes are in us. We evolved from these animals, and people think, oh, those things are gone, but they're not. They're all here in the lower cortex, in the dragon mind, the animal brain. It's right here, and I just try to figure out a way to shift from my normal, like, overheated,
right.
brain down to getting into that place so that my dog and I can be in the same, like, relaxed state of simply existing and breathing and smelling, and my senses open up. I mean, we can open up, like, my sight, which sucks. When I'm in this state, I can see at night really clearly. I can hear things I can't usually hear. I can smell amazing things and figure out what they are. And it's not magic. I mean, it's not, I mean, I guess it is in a way, but it's just that I've shut down all the stuff happening in my brain so that my real body, my intrinsic body, can simply do what it's always done for hundreds of thousands of years, which is be able to smell the things that are important and feel water and all that sort of stuff. So,
how did you research? Like, there's so many different aspects to the book, not just personal experience, but there's just, it comes from so many different areas. So could you speak about that?
I'm a nerd.
I appreciate it. The nerd in me honors the nerd in you.
My master's degree is ancient history,
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with this as a young child when I first went to I'm from New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I saw the Egyptian stuff, and I saw this, and I believe in past life stuff, and I know, like, I saw stuff when I was 6 years old. I first went to the museum, and I said, "Oh, I've been there. I know what that pyramid is. I know." I mean, I couldn't articulate it, but I've always been deeply interested in ancient stuff. And like I said, I've traveled around the world. I'm not rich, but that's just what I spend my money on. But I've been mostly, I go to ruins. That's like Angkor Wat and Machu Picchu and the pyramids of Giza and Tikal in Guatemala, and I go to find these places to try to remember and connect with how things used to be and how things should be, where nature and us are working hand in hand instead of destroying the planet. So.
Can we talk about I want to be mindful how I'm phrasing this, because usually I'm just like a squirrel on Red Bull with no filter and it just all falls out.
I am with you.
So I just try to be mindful.
Guy, you just go.
Okay. In your research, finding evidence of during witch trials and witch burnings, if you could talk about that. Hello, Denise. Thank you for joining us. It's okay that you're here a little bit late. We're glad that you're here.
Indeed. So when I started doing this werewolf magic stuff, people were like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "All right, let me do some research, because that's what I do. I do research. I'm an academic, as weird as that sounds." And I realized, like, oh my goodness, I went all the way back, and I found, and you've seen the book. I found, in ancient Greece, the beginning of werewolfism came from Mount Lycaon. Apparently came from Mount Lycaon, where there was a werewolf cult, and it goes all the way back into prehistory. They're now figuring 5,000, 5 to 10,000 years ago, and these where people would shapeshift, or they would go through shamanic trance states and go into a wolf state, and let the wolf energy come through. And so, and what I was finding was like real historical research. I mean, and anthropological research and archaeological research. So I'm a real stickler for that stuff, and Llewellyn really made me. They really held my feet to the fire. So if you go through the book, you'll see more citations than you've ever seen in any occult book. And I'm going to say that I have probably something like 500 citations, and it's all vetted. And they'd say, wait a minute, this is not the best citation. Find another one, and then I would. So when I got to I went through different countries. I went through the Norse cults. I went through ancient Greece, ancient Rome. In ancient Rome, everybody knew what Vespellus was the word they used for shapeshift. Right. And that everybody knew in ancient Rome that like there were werewolves everywhere, and there was all kinds of stories. And my book has all these great stories by legitimate historians at the time, like Roman historians. And then I got down the Norse, the berserkers, and the berserkers are basically werewolves. Bearsark means wearing the bear skin. Ulfsark is wearing the wolf skin. So the werewolves in that area were called Ulfsark. So let me see, where am I going with this? So then I got down into the Middle Ages, and I was like, no, I'm a witch. I was when I was 14, I was initiated as a witch. It's a long conversation, but anyway,
it's a fascinating one. Like your story is fascinating.
I am an eclectic person. I try everything. I try it all, and so I've always been a big fan of. I'm a Welsh, technically a Welsh traditional witch, and so then I started looking at witchcraft and going, I wonder if there's got to be connection between that, because I've seen lots of images from medieval images of witches as wolves or as werewolves, like riding their broom to the Sabbath or whatever. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a connection. Well, I started digging deep. The books about witchcraft don't have a lot, but the witchcraft trial documents, which are hideous and horrible and scary, have an awful lot of important stuff in there. And I dug deep into them, and I found that
you have access to them and just
it's all online. You can find it. You just
but you took the time to do it. I appreciate that.
My friends, I'm like, look at these ancient witchcraft documents, and they're like, Denny, just really
it's
take a deep, have a beer, relax, and so what I found was that 50% of all the people who were accused of witchcraft and who were burned alive or who were tortured were also accused of werewolfery, one of my favorite new words, which means being werewolves. And I had no idea. And I had read tons of books on witchcraft. And I was like, really? Half of the witches were accused of being werewolves? And then I started digging deeper into it and found that, yes, indeed, many of these people, when they confessed, talked about their witchcraft coven. And that when part of the initiation was to learn how to shapeshift by rubbing these psychedelic salves on themselves and then going into a deep trance state and then leaving their body in the form of a wolf. And I found, a dozen of these exact same stories. And that helped me sort of formulate what I was doing with because I was trying to reconstruct this werewolf magic. I was trying to reconstruct this idea of going into this trance state. I was obsessed. Plus, this wolf spirit was like, "Come on, you're on the right track. Just keep going." So I told my witchcraft friends, and they were like, "What? No!" And I was like, "Here, look," and they were like, "Oh, damn! Look at this. I've got cred. I've got werewolf cred."
That's funny. But and moving it past, because a lot of the stories that are mainstream, that are accessible for people, when we talk about that salve, psychedelic or not,
Mhm,
and it's also attached to um fear-based
mhm.
negative stories, right? And having
Right,
to
right.
kill somebody in their family in order to be initiated into this, and whether that happened or not as well.
Yeah,
But
probably not.
like there's always that flip side to
There
it
is,
as well.
there
Hi
is.
Sandra, thank you for joining us.
Mm.
Sandra's just saying hi everyone, and Michelle was saying indulge us with your background and your history. I personally like the story of you being dropped off at age 14 at by
And the
your
Adirondack Mountains, yeah,
yes.
that was when I encountered the god Pan, but that's another long conversation. But
Yeah.
I just went in the woods and one night, and I was 14. I don't. This is the 70s. You could get away with anything in the 70s. I'm sorry, but
Drinking from the hose.
oh no, not just that. Like no seatbelts, and I mean, I hung out
Oh
with my
yeah.
friends in here. I had to get a letter of permission to be initiated as a witch. That was hilarious when I was 14, and. And my mom, I asked my mom to drop me off at 14 in the Adirondack Mountains on the trail so I could go hiking for a week, even though I'd never been hiking in my life. And she was like, okay. And then she told me, I'll meet you here, da da da. And I was like, nowadays, nobody would let their kid do that.
And not just in a couple of hours. It was a couple of days.
It was like 5 days. And I had an encounter with the god Pan. I was lying in my sleeping bag, and beautiful night, and all of a sudden I heard this noise, and I look up, and there's this shadow, this huge shadowy figure with a guy with like I couldn't see it well, but he had goat legs and he had big horns, and I knew exactly who it was. And I went into a complete shock. I was in a panic mode, like I was frozen, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And all of a sudden, there was this kind of like orgasmic bliss, and he was gone, and I felt completely free, and my brain shut down. I mean, all my thinking shut down,
So
and then the next 5 days I just went hiking in that state of consciousness. So
my thought, yeah. My thought is, as an adult, when you had that experience where the wolf spirit was coming to
right,
you, did you put that connection that you've been having that kind of experience in the time you were little? So this is exactly where you're supposed to be and at the right time. But
yes,
that connection
yes.
to nature is what
All
path
my
and purpose, how it presents itself, right? Path and purpose.
all my friends said to me, or a bunch of my friends who are into stuff said to me, they go, "You realize that the God Pan, who's he's the manifestation of nature,
Oh,
was all that he
yeah.
started you on this road, right?" And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And by the way, I wrote a book about Pan, and
Yes.
that was 30 years worth of work on that book, because he's my tutelary deity, but the werewolf thing is slightly different, but
Yeah.
definitely okay. When I do my werewolf magic stuff, and you've read at least a chunk of the book,
Yep.
there are
First book. Yeah.
we use really basic deity forms when we're shapeshifting, and the first one is the Earth Mother, and we don't use words, so we use ma, like we growl like ma to invoke her for quite a long time. But then the next one is we reach our hands out and we invoke the Lord of the Forest, which is what the witches called him in the witchcraft trial documents, and we use ha. Now, ha is a vibration that the god Pan gave me. So
Mm.
ah, and then we invoke the full moon, which is ah. So it's ma 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 ah 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 ah, and then the werewolf spirit is "Rah." And then we build this up, and then we're like "Rah, rah, rah, oh!" And when there's like five of us, it's awesome, and we get this tone that all of a sudden it opens up the gate, and we can go right under when we do that. Meanwhile, I'm in Seattle I have people living on all four sides of me. And I have been waiting for the police to show up, and they have not. and we talk about it afterwards because we go, we go into this whole thing. And then we spend a lot of time sitting on the ground or going, and just kind of like existing and enjoying, right? Playing with our dog. My friends like to run after the dog and chase them around the yard. So we talk to each other. You'll get a kick out of this, I think. And we're like, well, what do we do if the cops show up? And then we were like, what should we tell them? What should we tell them? I said, I know. We'll tell them that we're LARPing. we're doing live action role play. And they're like, well, what should we tell them we're playing? I go, Werewolf the Apocalypse. Which is a great game, by the way.
Right. You could also just have a signed copy of a book going, yeah.
My book. We're okay.
Yeah.
We promise not to kill anything.
Exactly. Michelle is saying, what a great expression.
So yeah, I think the people around me, I mean, I do live in Seattle, which is very, very liberal. But I think the people around me are just like, oh, there they go. Okay. They just like, let it go. Doing my job to keep Seattle weird. That's my general thought.
Do you think that maybe they're just practicing along with you and doing it quietly because they haven't been able to outwardly dig deep yet, but they're enjoying the vibration that you're creating? Like even just in this, like Michelle said, what a great expression. And those of us that are sensitive would have felt that pull up just from you doing that, right? That tonal vibration is going to affect all of us if we're open.
I think so.
To our senses. So maybe your neighbors are playing along and you just don't know.
Well, their dogs.
If they're not dodging you when you're getting out of your car, then they must be open to it.
I don't know. They haven't really come up and talked to me. I don't know. Maybe they fear me. I don't know. But their dogs love me. I'll tell you that.
That's so funny. Okay, so you said something that triggered another question for me. Because you said it was like 30 years of research when you were talking about the book regarding Pan, but
right.
How? Because I'm getting the impression that you like information. So source information is all coming, stacks probably piled all over the place.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, that's okay. That's how beautiful minds think, right? In organized disorganization. So how did you know to edit? Was it a feel? How did you know what you wanted to be in that book? And did that lead to the Pack book? And is it leading to the next book?
Not necessarily. I am really kind of all over the place. I've got a whole list, a complete list. I've written about 20 books, but each book is an obsessive compulsive thing. I mean, like I do a deep dive on something.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a book on Naga Magick, which are the Nagas are spirits in India, of snake spirits, and for some reason I got obsessed with them, and I wrote an entire book on Naga Magick. And the Pan book, though, was more a compendium of my own personal work. And I wasn't planning to publish it, but then somebody came to me and said, I will publish it and I'll make it a hardcover. And then I had another friend who's an incredible artist and offered to do the art. And I finally said, okay. But a lot of my books are just things that I get obsessed with. Like the Werewolf Magick stuff, I was going to do on my own and not publish it. It was just for me. And then people are like, oh, I want to publish that. I'm like, all right. I did one on Shinto too.
And I mean, you're giving other people permission to be transparent about their own personal journeys as well too.
Oh, thank you. That's a really nice thought. I hope.
Well, but it's a truth, because you've had people come up and saying, just even Howie saying, I thought I was alone in that. And,
that's true. Yeah, right.
He's feeling very comfortable to be transparent about his personal truth. And that's a gift that you give to people.
Oh, well, gosh, thank you. I don't think that highly of myself, apparently. I don't really
apparently there's some healing still. We all have it. It's a never-ending journey.
I just am I don't know. Well, thank you. That's like a really sweet thing to say. I hope that's true, and I'm starting to feel that I'm doing something positive. But I also think I'm kind of nuts. But I
Most of
enjoy
us
very
are.
much. I enjoy very much doing all these different things, and they all. I mean, I'm a tantric. I'm a werewolf. I'm all these different things. I'm a witch. But they're all really the same thing for me. It's just that I'm growing and expanding and trying to do as many things as I can while I'm alive on this planet. So
Right.
so the new book is going to be coming out. I'm going to be
Yes.
due in February, which is Feral Magick. I'm going all the way back with that one.
I think that's brilliant. I'm
it's
just
gonna-
going to do a quick shout
yeah,
out, and then I would like to come back around to that if I
good.
can. So, if you are just joining us, thank you for being here. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live from the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7. And we have Denny Sargent on today talking about werewolf magic and other things.
Oh,
Yeah, this is so
I can talk
brilliant.
about horror movies too. I'm totally down about. I've seen every single werewolf movie, but
Do you have a favorite? Is a top three?
I'm going to actually go with the very, very old school first werewolf because it affected me deeply as a small child.
Mm.
But my favorite right now is the brand new on Marvel Werewolf by Night, which is brilliant. If you haven't seen it,
I have not seen it. I will make a note.
Short, unfortunately, it's only an hour long, but it's really, really good, really clever, and really fun. And I really love the werewolf. He's just great. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen there's others that I kind of like, but that one I really like. It's a little bit more human, and there's a bit
right. Ginger Snaps is my kickoff to Halloween, no different than Die Hard is to my Christmas.
Yeah. I get it. Ginger Snaps is great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I was a woman, I totally would like have a Ginger Snaps poster on my wall. I mean,
yes,
Ginger Snaps is has some wonderful, powerful stuff behind it, and it's really good. By the way, I recommend another werewolf movie that almost nobody's seen because it's French. It's called Wer, W-E-R. And I highly recommend it. And it's really intense and actually, I don't know. That's what you and I talked about. The Northman.
That's where I wanted you to go.
Yeah. The Northman has the best because my friends, two of my friends, they kidnapped me. They said, you have to watch this movie. I go, oh, I don't know. It's a movie about Vikings. No. They literally drove me to their house and wouldn't let me leave and made me drink beer and watch this movie. And I got into it until we get to the scene, and you know the scene.
Yep.
Where they are initiated into being berserkers or berserk, right? And as I mentioned, there's two kinds. Everybody knows what a berserker is, but they don't realize that berserk means you're possessed by the bear spirit, and ulfsark means you're possessed by the wolf spirit. And in that show, in that scene, you get to see a full-on Norse shamanic initiation into werewolf magic. And I went nuts when I saw it because it was like everything I had thought would be how it would be in ancient Norse and ancient medieval and ancient Roman and ancient Greek. And they did it so well.
Did you research to see who they consulted?
I did. I saw at the end of the movie, they actually have their consultants. And I was just like, whoa, they actually did a serious work on this. And
it's intense.
It's intense. And here's the thing, I've seen it a couple of times now, obviously. But what I love about it is because I read an interview with the director, and because I was fascinated by the fact that it's told from the point of view of believing these things. And when he was interviewed, he said, the movie is shot from the point of view of Vikings and that era in terms of what they believed, what they saw, the magic they did. And there's a scene in it, I'm not ruining anything, where somebody dies and the Valkyries come down and bring him up to Valhalla. It's very intense. I mean, I'm getting chills.
It is. Me too.
And it just made me so very happy to see, because I was like, vindication. That's we we don't have a
Because you
clue.
are asking people to move past their conditioning and be
That's it.
open to a different perspective.
That's it. And I'm
Yeah.
getting more and more radically, and you'll see in Pack Magick, I talk more and more about how crucial it is that we unearth, we release our animal self. That's the term I use for all of it. We release our animal self, which in most tribal cultures there's no issue between Native American tribes that I've met. The idea that we are animals is like a norm in most tribal cultures.
Right.
We are one of the weird hyper intellectual cultures where we have separated ourselves from animals. You know, God gave us dominion over the earth. The animals have no souls. They're just there for us to use and abuse, and we are above everybody. And that dichotomy, that belief system that we are not part of our ecosystem, that we are not animals, is destroying our planet. And people have to, people have to shift the way they see themselves. If you don't see yourself as an animal amongst animal within a wider, culture, a wider world,
So we're all interconnected.
we're all interconnected. And I end every one of my meditations every night by putting my hands on the earth saying, to you, from you, all things. Because without the earth, we would not exist. I mean, we wouldn't. If things get so out of whack that we no longer can have, potable water and food, our species is doomed. And we have this sort of myopic idea that we're always going to be around, but we have hundreds of thousands of years worth of history showing us that species come and go
And go. Yeah.
and we're like slitting our own throats. And the easiest path that I found, the one that has really hit me, is let out your animal self. It's okay to be intellectual and talk and teach and learn, but it's also important that you connect with your animal self, so that Gaia doesn't think you are a pest, so that when you enter the nature as in a full consciousness of being part of nature, being an animal, then Gaia kind of opens up and lets you in. And you can read hundreds of Native American stories like this. Chief Seattle, Chief Sealth is really his name, but Chief Seattle is really big in Seattle, obviously. And before he died, he gave this great speech to all the people who had moved here. And he said, look, when you came here, you built walls and fortresses and fences because you feared the forest. We do not fear the forest. The forest is our home. The animals there are our kin. We are animals. They are animals. We are equal. The animals show us what to eat, what not to eat. They show us how to do things. And when we kill a deer or a caribou or an elk, we thank them as person to person. We are going to eat you. Thank you. We honor you. And we're not going to kill 50 elk. We're going to kill only the elk we need, because we know, because we observe nature and live with the animals, that they need to breed, to reproduce. And so he basically says, you are slaughtering all the animals, you're destroying everything, you're cutting all the trees, you are doomed. You are doomed if you don't change what you're doing. We understand you have conquered us. There's nothing we can tell you, but I'm here to tell you something really important. You are destroying yourselves, your lives, your culture by disconnecting yourself from nature.
It's respecting the land and respecting the resources, right?
And not seeing animals and trees and other things as simply stuff that we can use and abuse as we will with absolutely no problem. And I'm not sure what to say,
Yeah. But when we're in that altered state, in that altered spiritual shifting, you can feel that collective consciousness of one on a whole other level. And
Yes.
so it carries you through to the conscious, to have more conscious awareness that your thoughts, words, deeds, and actions matter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Laura Lee is just saying hello to us as well, too. Thank you for being here with us. Oh my gosh, it's 3 pages of questions, so we're working our way through it. We're doing pretty good. One of the questions that I had was pushback. What sort of pushback you have experienced?
One moment, because I'm my car is in the shop and they're about.
Oh, that's so crazy! That's awesome.
Hold of me. They're trying to get a hold of me because they're going to come up here and get me so I can go get my car. So
that's so wonderful that you're getting your car back.
I didn't know how long we were going to be on. So
we got about 15 more minutes.
Okay.
If we can have 15 more minutes of your time.
You can.
Okay.
Do you mind if
you do whatever you need to do, and I will just keep chatting away.
Okay, just give me like a second.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
So I just want to scroll back through some of these comments. Thank you, everybody, for being here so much. I was really excited when we decided that Denny was able to come on and we were able to talk. Originally, I wanted to talk about werewolf movies and werewolf books, and we touched that a wee little bit. Thanks, Sue. I know I enjoy Denny's energy as well too. And I think that I learned a lot just in the last couple of days. Like, I had a very surface view of what I wanted to do. To Laura Lee's on the chat today. Yeah, I love it. And so I've learned a lot about, even digging deeper, and being able to go to that collective consciousness of one and tapping in. And I had not thought about doing that from like an animalistic sort of point of view. So I don't know. It's fascinating for sure. But if y'all want to share what your favorite werewolf movie is, I'm totally into it. Because I had even looked at books, but I'm not much. When you look at books, they're all like romance books with werewolves. I just not a romance person, nor am I a rom-com person. We'll have to share these with Denny when he comes back. Thank you for being here, Sandy. I hope all is well in your world. I'm glad that you're here with us. One of the things that I found about the books, should you decide to look into them, the Werewolf Magick book, because there is 2, because it's the Werewolf Pack Magick, but they do build. Like when you are looking at it, it builds. And I'll get him to talk about Feral Magick, which is the book that he's currently writing, which will be the next part, but not necessarily that they're a series. Underworld. Thanks, Michelle. I agree too. They were fascinating. They were fun. They were fun movies.
Never mind. I can't get a hold of them. I'm just going to have to call them when we're done.
So Sandy is joining us from East Coast Canada. And she said, all is great. I love this topic. Was always connected to Huskies growing up. So this is intriguing to me.
Good. And I'm sorry for that delay.
No, it's all good. We were talking about Underworld in different movies.
Okay, great.
Different werewolf movies. Michelle and I were talking about Underworld and sharing about Underworld. Oh,
Cool. Underworld was fun.
it was. Denise is just Denise Smith. I'm about 25 years behind on movies. What was the name of the Norse one you were talking about? Norseman.
The Norseman. That's it.
Yeah, Norseman. And what is the name of the main actor? Because he plays.
Gosh, I don't know. That's a good question. Really good actor.
Well, his whole family are actors, because I think he also played the clown in It.
Really?
Yes, in the remake.
Wow, that's really...
And a vampire in another show. Like, he just has these really, yeah.
Wow. Awesome. I didn't know that.
History.
He played the clown in It.
Acting career.
Well, he killed a lot of people in the movie, so maybe that's...
Does he ever? So there was just a lot of comments when you needed to step out for a few minutes. So no, it's all good. Everyone's saying that your energy is fascinating, that they're
hyperactivity is a good thing, I think.
Skarsgård. That's right, Michelle. Thank you so much for It's that whole family are brilliant actors.
Yes, they're Swedish, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're Norse for sure. I didn't know he was It. That's creepy as hell.
It was so good. He did such a good job. It was brilliant. Could you talk about Feral Magick, where you're going next?
Yes, I'd love to. I'd love to talk about my books. Absolutely. I don't make very much money on my books, but I love to talk about them. So they're like my babies. So I've done Werewolf Magick, and then I did Werewolf Pack Magick because I realized like Werewolf Magick was my own personal, like, well, this is what I do and let's see if it works. And then for about a year, I was doing things like going to festivals and getting other people to do it. And I realized, oh my goodness, I can actually do this with other people. This isn't just about me.
And not claiming it as a shaman.
Right. No, I am not a shaman. No.
Right. I just want to make sure that we make that very clear.
It's very important. And in fact, when I was writing Werewolf Magick, I mentioned shamanism, and they were like, no, you have to we're going to delete shamanism. I said, you can't. It's actually part of what I'm talking about. And I said, look, I met real Siberian shamans. I hung out with them. And so I'm not making this up. And they're like, well, we don't know. And I said, look, I wrote an article for a magazine, which was called, what was it called? Anyway, my column was Worldwide Paganism. And I interviewed this shaman, this Siberian shaman. And so I had to actually put a link to that article so they would let me use the word shaman. So I'm totally understand about cultural imperialism, and I'm not claiming to be a shaman. And I've met a lot of people I didn't really think should be using the term, but I have met them, I have hung out with them, I learned from them. I'm not a shaman. Yeah, let's put that right on the table as fast as I can.
Yeah.
But I am a werewolf person. I'm a werewolf magic person.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about you is having that sense of wonder and pulling from all different resources, and this is where it's led you to, and now here I'm offering this to you as well.
So Pack Magick got me to like actually look at, could this function outside of me? The next book I've been planning for a while now is Feral Magick, because as I got deeply involved in Werewolf Magick, I was getting lots and lots of people contacting me through Facebook and through other things, Instagram, about, well, I love what you're doing. I love the Werewolf Magick, but that's not the animal that comes to me. What comes to me is a bear, a lion, an otter. I've heard everything, snake. Like these animal spirits come to me. And so do you have any recommendation? Since I understand that you're doing this and I love your Werewolf Magick stuff, but that's viscerally in my gut. That's not the animal spirit that is calling for me to get into opening up my animal self. And I thought about that a lot. And I was like, wow, that's right. I'm in this little niche. This is where I've gotten my gnosis, where I've gotten my direction is from this wolf spirit. But other people are hearing other spirits. And so I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been researching it a lot, and it pulled me into animism and what I'm calling neo-animism. So Animism was the beginning of all religion. And I'm not making this up. This is straight anthropology, sociology. And it came from the place where we can actually connect it historically is the Paleolithic era, where the basic belief of animism is that all things are alive. And we're going back to a state of consciousness where we realize like the trees are alive and the animals are alive and some mountains are alive. And then I realized, oh, wait, I lived in Japan for 4 years. Shinto is animism. Japanese are animists. They believe that there are spirits everywhere. And they are they're very intelligent. They're very high level culture. They're kicking the ass of the world in terms of money and finances. And yet, if you hang out in Japan, you find signs like next to lakes that show a serpent, a snake. They say, beware, there is a snake spirit in this lake. You probably shouldn't swim here. So the more and more I've been doing this kind of stuff, the more and more I've been getting interested in other spirits and the idea that we can see a tree or we can see these things. And that if we go into a deep trance state, we can actually see the spirit energy in everything. And I want to supply people who have talked to me with a way to approach any animal spirit.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So that's what we'll see. But I got a contract.
Don't even say we'll see, just be yes, and just allow it to unfold.
Yes.
Right?
Can I do it like that? Can I go, yes?
Kind of like Scooby-Doo. Well,
I guess, sure. Okay.
Taffy Misty is just saying when we were talking about movies, Twilight. Sandra Sharp, thank you for being here. Sandra is saying Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, American Werewolf in London, and Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer, are some of her favorites. Yeah. It's all good. And it's where we're at. And Sandy, I'm just going to put Sandy's question up here for you. Can you tell if someone that has that werewolf energy to join your pack? Can you if you could, two groups, like if a group of people in Canada were doing this and you were doing this in Seattle in your backyard with your neighbors peeking through the shades, at the same time, can you tap in that same collective consciousness space?
Good question. I have no idea.
We need to try.
I love that idea. Well, I'm going to be doing I'm doing a Zoom Werewolf Magick. I've done one Zoom Werewolf Magick like trance state class, and it worked okay. And I've got this other group of people of witches and that have quite a network. And in November, I'm going to be doing another Zoom. So let's see if Zoom works. I mean, I'm still, I do a lot of Zoom tutoring.
I'll say yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it might work. And so people contact me and they want to know. And I said, well, read my book. And if you have any questions, write me. So, people can go to my website, which is, you have it up there, DennySargentAuthor.com. You can also type in werewolfmagick.com. And
it takes you it lands you at the same place.
Yes, I added a new one recently, which is feralmagic.com.
Okay.
So people can, because when I'm talking to people, I say, oh, just write me at werewolfmagick.com. And they remember that. But if I say DennySargent.com, just a second. Hello.
Oh, you're welcome, Sandy. I'm really grateful that you're here. So if we need to come back around to ask that question again, just let me know and we can pull that back up and ask him again before our time finishes up here. And Sandra, I have not seen Wolf with Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer, so I wrote that down so that I can come back and look at it again. And Taffy, I know that I may get, a little bit of flack for this, but my daughter and I were all over the Twilight movie, so I'll take it. And we still do. It seems to be one of those movies, um, that we come back to, that we have as background, both my daughter and I, when we have things that we're doing, and she lives in a different home now. But we tend to put that movie on as company, if that makes sense. Do you guys do that? I know some people play music, but I tend to have movies playing. There we go.
I'm so sorry for that.
It's all good. It's all good.
I desperately need my car, and I didn't. They're calling me a little early to come pick me up and take me to my car. So,
but that's exciting that you get it. It's an awful feeling when you don't have a vehicle and you feel sort of stranded.
I am stranded. I have to have my car.
I feel that and understand that for sure.
If I was a wolf, I would just run down there and it would be no problem. But I'm an old wolf.
Or you'd growl and they would work on it faster.
I need it now.
So I was going to say, I've done, I do these events called Dining with the Dead at different venues. And it's essentially just, people have their dinner and dessert, and then I shoot out. Okay, so I have your loved ones here in spirit, and I deliver messages for a while afterwards. But I've done the Dining with the Dead online. And it worked out the same, and I'm not even in the same space. It's energetically, they're all here in that collective consciousness. So they know to show up because they're loved ones. So I think that tapping in and seeing if that pack can grow internationally is doable.
I love your idea. It just never occurred to me. I'm clearly not very good at promoting myself. I'm really not.
I told you I'm part of your support team now.
Oh my God, you are.
I got your back.
It just did. Thank you. Someone should, because I'm like all over the place. And I write these books, I do this stuff, and then I'm like, oh, then I kind of wander off like some crazy person. So I'm really.
Yeah, Sandra's just saying she can hear the dog in the back. It's super cute. God, actually, we're all dog people.
Are you? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another question then. When we're all of this tapping into that astral plane magic, all of it is about intention. There's an intention behind everything that we do, right? Our intentions matter, but also creativity. How does creativity play a part in our intuition and our path?
In Tantra, there are 3 Shaktis, and it's knowledge, will, and action. And you have to balance all of them. And you can know things, but if you don't have will or action, then it's worthless, right? And if you do action, but you don't have knowledge or will, then it's worthless, right? So I really like that sort of standard, you have to know what you're doing, you have to have strong will to actually do it, and then you have to do it. So anyway, that's my sort of go-to when people ask me stuff.
But being creative helps.
Being creative. Well, that's where I would slot that in is in will. Like your will is your creativity, and your action is your creativity. Both of those are how are you going to do it? So if you have knowledge, will, and action, okay, the action is, well, what are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And that has to involve your creativity.
And changing your idea or concept of what creativity is, because lots of people say, well, I'm not a creative person, I'm not artistic at all. And creativity doesn't necessarily have to, because there's lots of people whose creativity is creating drama.
There's
that, but that's not necessarily positive creativity.
No, correct. That is so correct. That is so true. Oh my God. I don't know what to say about that, but yeah, that's right.
Sandra's saying the right mindset.
I got plenty of drama stories.
Oh yeah, no, we're not going to go to drama stories today, but we do.
No.
Yeah. Direct people. Where can they find you if they want to connect with you? Where can they find your books?
Well, they can find me on Facebook, and I'm just Denny Sargent. They can.
Denny Sargent, author, I think is.
I've got a. Yeah, my publicity one is Denny Sargent, author. And then I'm also Denny Sargent. If somebody's really serious and they want to like be friends with me, I'm pretty open. Or they can email me, and that's maybe the easiest way, and that's through my website. If you go to my website, Denny Sargent author or werewolfmagick.com, Magick with a K, then there's a little tab at the top that says contact. You hit that, and it gives you a place to email me. You can click another button and email me directly. So I love it when people email me, because then it stays in my Gmail and I don't forget it, and it's there, and I correspond with everybody. So
good.
I am one of those people that I'm very accessible.
Accessible.
Like, oh yeah, if you're interested in my book, I will spend hours writing you. I mean, I don't have that many people that do that. So, but like I have 2 people now who are writing me about the Werewolf Magick stuff, and they're like, I hope you don't mind. And then they write me a long letter, and then I write them a long letter. And then, I got nothing better to do than help people. I mean,
well, this is part of, I think, that people are needing connection. They're needing that werewolf magic. They're needing to feel part of a community, part of a pack, and tapping into that. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens once Feral Magic, and I have you back on after that.
Oh, well, that would be lovely. I'm sorry I bounced out a couple of times, but
it's all good. It's all good.
We all know that we're car-centered in our culture, and it would be nice
for now.
But for now, that's right. I can't wait till teleportation is happening. Oh God, there goes my dog again.
It's all good. So thank you, everybody that was here. Next week on the show, we have Rick or Mortis Shrek, actually, is his name, and he created the largest spirit board that was at Salem. So he's going to come on, and we're going to talk about talking boards and spirit boards with Rick Shrek next week. So thank you, everybody that participated in the conversation and joined in and asked questions. I appreciate you. If you have any show suggestions for me or comments, please connect with me. It's carrylyn.shellhorn@gmail.com. And thank you to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you again and connect with you again next week.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Spirit Switchboard with host Carrylyn Shellhorn on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 New Orleans.